When telling a secret to three sisters, 111 people will know it. This can be said to be an extremely skillful way of organizing the apparatus. The reason I have to detail you is because everyone understands that the species has been exposed, and you are also an intelligence agent. At that time, the torture was very difficult, so just keep your mouth shut. Almost 99% of the time, this is a chair. Then, perhaps everyone already knows very well, torture in this series about Hero Nguyen Van Thuong, who was beaten by a car to Toya's door 6 times. That's why the intelligence officer should know as little about his network as possible. How can he confess without knowing anything? Now, knowing everything about his network, when unfortunately one thing is exposed, it will increase by a second, and the third one will be people. The important thing is that the line is not built in a day or two. It takes a dozen years to build a team for the owner like that. I asked who was out there that how did you deliver the message to Mrs. Ban to transfer the money? There are two concepts, a live mailbox and a homemade mailbox. A bad mailbox, it means that the liaison, like Mrs. Balkan Ho Tui, are the prescribed places to put documents, tree roots, or chairs for the way to deliver messages through the dead mailbox. When in the morning you will take your German Shepherd to let it relieve sadness while it is clearing inventory. We'll still help. Hue and that cigarette will be the last thing of the group to take the cigarette out the eyes of the package into the tree root. The package already has documents. Throw the documents into the tree root. Then you will walk the dog around for about half an hour. Then immediately will come to get it. At the same time, the liaison will leave a letter that the superior sent back to you at the right time, that about an hour. Mr. N will come back and let the dog discharge the goods to the same place. At the same time, look around to see if your documents have been taken. Another thing is to see where the documents at the liaison with you left are. At that time, you will lean in to drop the lighter to pick it up. That is to bring things that are neat and small, like poems. But if you have to bring things that are bigger, curved, much more than movies, for example, what will you have to do? At that time, you will have to look for a Vonke or something. Then you will carry the rocks out there. The documents will be in the pile of rocks next to the grave. The liaison will come to prepare the method quickly and take the documents to bring back. This method is only used in a desperate situation because the risks are too high. He ate extremely scared. Unfortunately, there were children who went there to play and took the face. Then that's it. Only I have the main idea. So it's expensive to transfer the film to the leadership game. Then the best way is to use people. That is to use the box from living to delivering letters. Living. Then there are many forms of camouflage. Sometimes meet at the pharmacy, sometimes meet at the market. Mr. Dan's most dangerous thing in the gray zone is probably not the academy he took, but how is it regulated? We have seen in the film that he has taken many measures to conceal his identity, like cutting off his hair or shaving his beard. But the biggest danger probably comes from the money he transferred, right? Have you ever wondered where that pile of money came from? To answer that question, let's keep watching the series. He once said a very good sentence in the movie. Documents are not only confidential, but documents are also the first thing to lose. The document that makes the officer lose just need his jowl lean. Unfortunately caught and exposed. It all happened when all his efforts to create a cover were meaningless. That is why knowing how to organize a newsline on that intelligence day is an extremely important way of looking at the newsline that day. Perhaps we will see the Swallow-S soul simply because no one thought that it would be so kind to the emperor that day. The document of the general will be transferred to Mrs. Nguyen Thi, Mrs. Nickname B3 by convention. It's 10 days one time, depending on the agreed location in the network. Only Anna Lam is the only one who has direct contact with Mr. from V3. The document will follow 2 routes. One is the regular Jiaolin route, or the light route, or the route in an emergency situation. That is BATMT if there is a direct instruction to the game, when 38 sessions will be the person to carry out this task with her in conditions without convention. Both of these routes lead the document back to the same school. From here, the chief will process the document and classify it. Then it will be transferred by two forces, which are the armed forces or the technical interface, to the massage transfer to the regional intelligence department. From here, the intelligence will be transferred to the regional general staff and then to the central office of the southern region to serve the battlefield and transfer to the intelligence department. From here will be transferred to the Central Politburo of the Party Central Military Commission and the Ministry of National Defense. This is a network, and just by looking at it, we can understand how difficult it is to transfer our information during wartime. That is also the reason why intelligence agents on single-line operations such as Mr. Kwok, Mr. Ain, or anyone else never knew the face of the commander. The only person whose face was written was his own liaison. Mr. Ain, who ate the soul, worked under the command of a doctor on the front line, but the two of them had never once spoken to each other. Mr. N once reported that he wanted to get acquainted with his liaison, but was rejected by his superiors, because at that time the liaison had just moved to another place, and then he received a message from his new superior ordered him not to disclose his identity to anyone, even his own people, so he never revealed his true colors. This is the principle of the single line. This is the principle of the single line. In fact, the special thing about the movie The Gray Zone is that it brings us the most realistic and detailed look at the life of an intelligence agent. If in the past we only knew about their sacrifice, now we can clearly see their daily life as well as the difficulties they encountered. Through the movie, we can clearly realize how risky it is to be an intelligence agent. If they make a mistake, not only themselves, but also many other people will suffer. Therefore, being an intelligence agent not only requires bravery, but also great wisdom. They must absolutely be trusted by their organization. Otherwise, if one day they become a double agent, triple agent like Mr. A, it will be too late when the organization discovers everything. And to be an intelligence agent, in addition to receiving professional training, they must also have a strong psychology. Be able to control their emotions. Be calm and absolutely not act with their emotions, because one misstep may lead to irreparable consequences. That's all from me today. See you soon with interesting historical stories. Goodbye. There are many ways to convey information. It doesn't necessarily have to be through word, just like the way Mr. Ain and Mrs. Ba communicate with each other in the market. Even though they didn't speak, they knew exactly what the other person meant. It's just that their conversation is invisible to everyone else. No one can know. Like the way Mr. Ain handed a list of film rolls to Mrs. Ba. He just casually handed it over without anyone noticing. In fact, that was a list of very important information, but the people around him didn't know. Even his wife didn't know. They talked to each other in a very natural manner, like they were doing magic. They watched. Mrs. Ba saw Mr. N walk towards her. She sat down and calmly sipped her wine. Then she looked at him and smiled, inviting him to sit down. Then Mr. N showed Mrs. Ba how to cut the throat. Now, how the flour is made. While talking, he invited Mrs. Ba and her friend, who also became a guest, to eat a few pieces, but of course, it would not be possible to eat all the softball that Mr. N invited. If there is anything he will bring home to eat gradually. Everything happened very naturally. Even if you stood right next to you, you would not know that they were transferring documents to each other. The rolls of film were wrapped very carefully in the spring rolls and lanterns that Mrs. Ba. So to eat gradually, those were documents that even $1 billion could not be bought. And of course, in the package of documents that day, there was also a time and place for each meeting. Each meeting would usually be about 10 days apart. The meeting place would change constantly. When Mrs. Ba had something to do with Mr. N, she would go to school and wait until he took the children to school. There was no need to say hello. The data only needed to be seen. Seeing the old lady wrote above, she had money. But the question was, when would Mr. Ba be caught in a trap? Mr. An saw the three people and kept talking very intimately with them. At that time, there was a discussion. Of course, every profession has its own rules. When meeting like this, there must always be a pre-agreed agreement to signal each other's safety at the meeting place. You should observe whether there are any drill marks or chalk marks, or if a branch has been broken. If there are, then you can make a transaction. If not, then one of the two people is planning to follow. At that time, turn away and ignore it. They ask, has one of them ever been late for an appointment? Of course, there is, and they always follow the same rule. Wait another 5 minutes. If it's more than 5 minutes and they don't see each other, they will have to set up a new appointment from the beginning. Third, if they don't die, they will have to immediately cut off the relationship to investigate. See how it is. Every time they are late like that, both of them are extremely worried and uneat or asleep because they can't even understand what problem the other person is having, or is he being arrested or not being arrested. Then they will have to declare me or not as the police preparing to arrest me or not. That is the reason why Mr. An once shared that he was always ready for death. Here, maybe many people will continue to ask the question. Mr. An met Mrs. Talk in exchange like that. So you intended to not suspect anything? Well, of course, intended is also the type of father of Khan, so we cannot meet each other in such a simple way to properly standing in the middle of the market to meet the old lady. The old lady has already set up a car accident drama to legalize the appointments about 6 holes. Then the victim is the old lady, which driver hides with an accident like that. Sister story. A sentimental journalist visits someone he has mistaken, and it is too normal if they're... The place where Mr. An and Bahe met for the first time was chosen very carefully. It was in the middle of the enemy's lair, right? In the heart of Saigon. After more than 10 years of separation, their second meeting still took place in Saigon. However, it was no longer the bustling and chaotic Saigon of the past. Instead, the ruins of the city were replaced by the meeting at Taoist Temple. After the fall of Saigon, their third and final meeting took place in Hanoi. The two had many things to say after more than 20 years of separation. That was when Bahe learned about the whole story behind the mysterious disappearance of her lover. Seeing him standing talking to the old lady is nothing. When meeting too much is scared. But occasionally meeting each other until the snow falls to treat tuberculosis, then there is nothing to fight. The main creative level, turning secret elements into public, has helped the face and the old lady survive. Right in the heart of the enemy for 15 years. And along with that is who knows how much strategic information has been transferred from hand to hand. Mr. Enna came to Chinkang. The document will be brought to Hoc Mon and then given to another liaison officer to CCU Chi here, the leaders of our house. We'll see iodine to read what Mr. Han wrote on the yellow paper. This is also the answer to the comment in the front of the friend named Dong Kwang Bin. There is a very good detail about Mrs. Ba in the book Deep Veen Hone, who was a liaison for her sister. She was illiterate and no one knew where Mr. An lived. This detail can show us that the selection of personnel for the intelligence line was carefully taken care of by our high-ranking leaders. How did I... Perhaps it is because of this that people can better understand Mrs. Ba's confidences. After the Liberation Day, the day of peace, Anne came to see me. The sky was so happy. Tomorrow the sisters will be able to talk for the first time and they will come together, but tears will keep flowing. I cursed it at first. Met you too. I was very scared because you were too fancy. At that time, you were too fancy, dog. The German Shepherd with your Piaggio made me sick to death. A honest farmer Fuong, true to the Southern style, working with a top player of the land. Saigon will, but they can still coordinate with each other very well to write heroic pages of history. Mr. Eat met again at Ba. He only knew a lot of her hands and said that my sister had achievements, partly because of her work up to 4, and there she just kept being a silent liaison for her friend like that. Fuak, 15 years from 1961 to 1975. Another woman was also close and very important during his time as an intelligence agent. That was Mrs. Thursday Ingen. They did not know anything about her husband's main job until 6 months after the wedding. Their father found out that her husband was an intelligence agent. Saw the dreams of the dog part of his wife was willing to do anything to supporting her husband's mission. Is the person who was on guard every time he hands over the proposed documents. Trouble happened to him and his sister, at least one person, as she decided to report it on. Along with that, when needed, she can also stay awake and bring it with him to take pictures of documents. She also recounted that Mr. Ann had told her many times that if he was also arrested, she should not run around and beg for favors, because he never had a source of information and was always ready for death. As a woman, I am very afraid. I always live in a state of readiness to face the worst situation, always feeling like a fish on a chopping board. Along with that, she also carried a poison pill with her. This is probably a psychological torture that no hand can fully describe the pain of it. It is like you already know your death sentence and are just waiting for the day the god of death calls your name. That generation, fathers and grandfathers, have always been like that. Though is very worried and ready to carry a little poison to end himself anywhere so that now his descendants can money. I can comfortably sit at home, watching movies and listening to music. But there is a small part of the young generation that cannot understand the sacrifice, that hard work they are willing to follow handsome men for their father to read. They may not run out of tears for a Vietnamese American singer, but there is no bowing to those who have sacrificed their youth so that they can have the life they have today. The more we read the profound and humorous conclusions of Mr. Pham Nguyen in the book Hidden Names, Like Life, by writer Nguyen Thi Ngo Khai Nu, the more we can see all his authority. He once shared that there are two oldest professions of that type: prostitution and intelligence. The first is prostitution. The second is intelligence. Intelligence was born later. Other professions before the 20th century. When did not have these 2 days in our history also have Trong Tu? Is intelligence. But the first sentence, that of a perfect spy, or after the first touch, is always right. Trong Tu is a spy. It's scary, but never as scary as now. There are too many of us deeply willing to sell to the motherland to follow Trong Tu. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, and today's history lesson would like to pause here. Thank you for your attention and follow-up, and please remember the part about readmission of history as well as the color Hoi. Hamor to 1 billion to my channel, soon reach 1,500,000 subscribers. First, for any condition, the cover system of the defense system is a rule that determines up to 99% of the success or failure of an individual. The important thing is to choose which cover to operate. That's the first thing to start with. If considering the cover is just a fake profession, not really good, not doing it on a real day. Death is certain. There's never a way out. But there are days when spies are very good, but using that profession to make a cover that is not suitable for the target is also not good. Hoi is a suitable profession, and when suitable, he must climb to a suitable position to exploit information. In a position that is too low, it is not possible, but climbing to a position that is too high and being controlled is also not good. Like the case of Mr. Sao, it turns out that his spy was planted as an advisor. At that time, when he heard the order of the army, it was a miserable situation for Mr. Sao. He did not have a perfect cover, and his job was to be an employee in a very manual way. Whenever he saw someone important coming to talk to Union Chan, he sat coldly on the bed inside the stream of hand. After many times of paying attention, he liked it. The newspaper of the Republic of Vietnam began to be suspicious and prepared everything to drag the old man into his resume. When Mr. Sao said that he used to be a high school math teacher in Cambodia. However, the intelligence team set up a scene for a student to come, said that tomorrow he had to take an exam, so he needed Mr. Sao to help him. And of course, with a left hook of his image, Mr. Sao could not solve the 7th grade math problem. And then what had to come to like the environment. More money and fixed apparatus. But love is much more precious to see. But then it did not work. After the Geneva Agreement was signed, the country was temporarily divided in two. More than 1 million Catholics migrated to the South, including 2 young men trained by the... Yes, he was pointed out and captured by the enemy. Beat Thatch very brutally and threw his body down to the capital. Successful! His best friend with rhyme passed away in such a painful way. He was only 21 years old. It was the aging of his best friend that made the place of the label give up all his work to join the army to avenge his friend. At that time, he was still an employee of the tax office, an extremely good position. Not everyone could get in. Indochina only had 50 people chosen, not many. The job was very stable. He also gave up everything because he could not bear the sight of his friend passing away in such a brutal way at the hands of the enemy. Then when he entered the army, the leader also saw his talents and assigned him the task of being an intelligence agent. But that day, he extremely hated this day. Saibong wanted to be able to hold a gun and fight, but to be an intelligence agent at that time, for him, it was no different than being a guy who only believed that honesty was good. Dr. Pham notched that. The director commander still had to buy down and explain to the young man about the definition of patriotism in war. Not just holding a gun to be him. Just join the fight when called. Kiyu country in each position has a different use as strategic intelligence depending on hardships and dangers. About to see a specific standard character save thousands of people from death. He ate after listening, then also did not eat like that. Because young people all have their own stubbornness. Not to mention he ate the child who was Marion Kwok, has a very gentlemanly personality. Since childhood, he himself extremely hated the profession and he thought she was bait for this place, and not to mention during the time of the student movement. He really hated the French secret police team, the Fatless. Must spy on the unlucky uncle, mate. If he did not like something, then fight in person right away. Just press the button he really hated. But that day, Dr. Pham Ngoc Thatch told him that in revolution there is no choice of liking or not liking. Must also be due to having to try to do it well. The reason why at that time the leaders were assigned to do intelligence was extremely suitable, simply because of the first reason. His parents were both patriots who had connections with the revolution, but did not reveal any. His father was a civil servant with many friends, and they were high-ranking officers in the old regime. That was a very favorable condition for the enemy not to doubt his achievements and background in the future, when he could get into good positions to expand relationships. Second, his motive was very clear to the army. With that, Mr. An was an extremely intelligent person. His education level was very good. He knew both English and French. These were 2 extremely important things because if you want to fight, you have to understand. If you want to understand, you must first know its language. Even if you climbed, you could not have imagined that it turned out that the F1 of Dr. Thatch was a turning point in his life and has made his famous name. He wants the flight attendant to bargain. The whole world must bow in admiration. This is probably the clearest historical lesson for young people who are uncertain about what to study and what to do. The phenomenon of the situation is very much in life is mostly elite people. At 21 years old, he was still on faith. Only when he was arrested in the Night Palace and met a teacher with an extremely good strategic vision was he able to choose the right career. That is why it is understandable that every Annabine does not know where the future will go. There is nothing defined for himself. And of course, in the early days of his career, he could not avoid mistakes. Even her leader, in 1951, the news agency of his country was born. He was a member of the first generation to advance. Mistakes happen like daily meals. This is something everyone can refer to in its 69 years in the early days of its intelligence service. It suffered heavy losses due to its weak capabilities and all the assets that its intelligence service had. That day, there was a boundless love for the fatherland. Along with that was the inherent intelligence of each type of money, plus the protection of the people. In addition, there was nothing else. They were not paid. They were not educated properly like a scooter. Many people would say, "What are you talking about?" But after liberation, when intelligence people like Mr. and Mrs. Quark were asked by reporters if they did not receive any subsidies from the revolution, he answered very clearly that there was no revolution. The revolution did not give me anything. I only had one belief. The reason for this was because wherever they were established, they did not have much money to pay. Secondly, they had not yet had too much experience to do that. It was impossible to dare to find the budget to pay the salary. Minsai was informed into the apparatus of the appointed person. He would also be able to put someone in his apparatus. The function of carrying out the payment to someone was unclear, so it was very easy to expose that it was about the operating costs of the hospital. Practice, then. In the early days of establishment, no one went before. Then only taught Dr. Pham Ngok Thach only knew how to advise Mr. Hen to find a way to abandon the West and learn something. Apply it. Then apply it must be self-reliant as well as son. Or, Hasha, that was the time when the intelligence industry was newly established. In his hands, he had nothing. Experience, no knowledge, no money, not even a penny. So how could he survive against such a bunch of brains to do something extraordinary like that? The answer lies in his own dharma, his people's intelligence. Everything is helped by the people. The people will wait. If there is no help from the people, it will certainly never exist. Nostalgia, not only the story, but the excavator above has rhymes that have been near that day. Not having to stay home to look after Mrs. Tam's house draft to operate. 3 with Mrs. Tam. We learn this is very dangerous, because if we intend to discover, then the family will lose all the assets they have. But the assets in the house, Mrs. Tam said, this is where the total assets are worth up to 38 million. But 38 million at that time was extremely large. Gold was 3,000 dong per tree. 38 million is equivalent to nearly 3,000 gold trees, which is currently worth nearly 800 billion. If he himself is exposed, Mrs. Tam Dao's family will lose all of those assets. Let's go up. The whole family is still determined to let him stay to serve the work of the revolution, or like another time, when his intelligence base on the street was exposed. But Mr. Toucan did not know that, because the police of the Republic of Vietnam came there to let you be very attentive. Understand why? It was like that until later. There was a person you explained to him. Then the husband understood most of the students at that time. Like this study after finishing determined to stay. Then they will not study too much, because Mekong, people like to study. The Mukdong good students find it harder to find jobs than average students. Workers, if more good people will require work, 1.5 or twice as much as normal people, and also do not like to hire good apprentices and work with normal people. From that time on, he ate clouds. Understand more about why the teacher doubted him. That's why martial arts are for said boy outdoor more than that. But of course, everywhere. Calculate the ultimate goal is still how to understand American culture. He started playing by watching American football, attending parties on the beach between outdoor parties for school students, go flirting, go dancing. To understand more about America, Toy stood up extremely fast after only 8 months. He became a minute with the post office, the friends he danced with. He had to admit that. He danced too much. You can zoom born without him night. This dish kuvu has helped you escape from the big M. Due to cultural differences, not only the role of the son very actively participate in group activities. Still, every code number activities all have his name. He also campaigned to establish a student club with members from Asia, Europe. At the same time, also participate in student political activities at school. He is also one of 9 people chosen by the school to attend the conference on world issues with the theme of communist training has victory in Southeast Asia. In addition, he is also one of 6 delegates representing the school international relations club to attend the conference of the organization kitchen area with the theme of investing him in the progress of the world. Almost all the groups what big events for students. He is a key figure. But studying abroad is so good, but still has dishes like want to talk in public. Mr. An cannot understand why he never now controlled, but no matter how hard he tried, he could only get AC. Only later he asked a friend sitting across from him, he found out that this professor was not a communist at all. Mo still often used communist words in his tests. It turned out that it was like that until then. He understood far from simple with when he read Vietnam. He was very diligent in reading books and newspapers, but he read revolutionary books and newspapers written in English. That's why Blood was too familiar with it. Words like oppressing, exploiting imperialist friends, and then often put those words into the test unconsciously, later realized it every time he did the test, he had to ask someone to help correct the vocabulary. Finally, he was able to get a B by. Then he looked to America not only to learn more knowledge, but also a huge brainstorm. If not careful, when it is very easy to be exposed from the stack, said those who will. Mr. Tone are those who have a background as a warning as a person good at English plus a lot of knowledge about politics, history, economics, psychology. So every semester also gets a bed fee along with his friends, Mr. Kwai Ong, then Gold. Every weekend, most students go home or go somewhere else, not stay in a dormitory with friends, afraid of Mr. An. Being alone makes you sad, but always fighting over each other and taking them home. God forbid, and the more classy thing is asterisk, that even your own parents, when they come into contact with him, are fascinated by him because of his knowledge and sense of humor. A friend of his once told that my father really likes to talk to him. He is very interesting. A young man, but mature and very friendly. My father and he often talk to each other for hours a day even. Your parents that Mr. An can convince. Of course, the matter of 8 things for him is too simple. Classy at work, can integrate into American culture very quickly, from the guys who have never held another person's hand lie to see. Salary just after a few months, he was flirting like a real American, was the first, still likes to have the name Roshan. Normally in Vietnam, the process would be to talk back and forth, finish starting to fade out, eat finished eating, then go to the movies, watch movies, then take advantage of holding hands, then each person goes home. Everything is very home. The thanks to the screen that applying this in America is not okay, because the culture here is different, like the heartcom to say it straight away. I have a crush on you this year. I want to marry you, but I'm worried that you won't be happy. Then go to my hometown. To Livetha are a lot of people who only ride bicycles, wear pajamas on the street, and hang clothes in the window. I really want you to think about that. This confession has made the girlfriend quite surprised. Hammock then, that girlfriend flatly refused. So don't be surprised, already being an American. Already understands American culture. Mr. An found that very normal Hestel, befriended and still close friends with that girl. And even a year later, the matchmaker, this girl with another person. Together shine outside, then stop out. Then the day is America, my friend Jaw. Son likes another person whose name he feels like he was struck by lightning when he meets this person. A person many describe as having ivory blonde hair, green tea, smart, eyes wide, glasses, quick mind with sharp judgment, and from being deep close to this late editor of Panico newspaper. This is also the place where the model still works. Sister, studied in America, flirting this second time is completely different from the first. That is, he was able to cut you down thanks to the two of you being together, never leaving each other half a step. Every Thanksgiving or Christmas, he was invited to your house to stay like it was cheap. He once thought about marrying you to be his wife because he has a lot of these, but then after all, he was still determined to put aside the matter of his wife and love affairs to focus on work for the important responsibility that the nation has welcomed him. If each other married an American wife, she would not work intelligence. He would be more trouble than the most. Beautiful days of life is wandering in love is Android. The moment of a talented student with many admirers. Suddenly, he is about to receive a letter from his younger brother. The letter with the content of the story, but is disguised by a story asterisk. Tet holiday is coming, but I don't know what to tell you right now. I know you chat in the past because I like to chat about heaven and earth to make Tet more fun. I will tell you a story in the past after this opening paragraph is a section encoded in the form of a story with what content is finished. Once upon a time, a poor old man whose life is pat. He raised ore about his son. His 2 sons liked to go into the forest to play, and the firewood mountain toe get money to take care of their father. One day the 2 brothers went into the forest. Then the younger brother was captured by a demon, lost. The older brother escaped. Clearly there was a dog, and a parrot showed the way out of the forest. The younger brother was still imprisoned by the demon and was about to be eaten. The older brother lost the younger brother, so he was very sad all the time, remembering his brother. Remembering a lot about lost, the brother went back to the forest where his brother was captured with the dog, and the parrot to find him, but unfortunately only the parrot returned home alone. After reading the letter, he thought Timpermane's this part suddenly stunned. He understood that the worst had come to him. The person in the line had been mistaken and had been tricked to be tortured. The reason he understood the message that this letter conveyed, Ty was asking the person in charge of the intelligence unit had a daughter before leaving for the U.S. He gave this person a dog and a parrot to bring back for his adopted daughter. Now in the letter saw that they were all arrested. He understood that he invited NGO. His leader had been arrested. The problem for him was now, should you come back to Vietnam now, stay in the U.S., or go to another country to live a more peaceful life later? If asked, she would say that because of losing contact with the superiors, he was not familiar with it. It would be okay in theory when everyone would still have to respect him, but everyone knows the hot result still chose the option, but you are not sure that you get much. That is the water. Person, the question is sold. That's why the butt chose that option. And after returning home, but how can he know if it's hunting him or not? All will be in the latter throughout before we've been to coaxing ourselves months. Tung Hone has been wandering in America for him. Those are probably the best days of his life. Yes, this in America, there are days when he rarely has to go up to death. Everything over. There for him is as beautiful as a dream-loved career for a fresh graduate student, perhaps. No one can compare to the Asia Foundation that day once offered him the hope that he could get a job with a very high salary at the U.S. Information Agency, under a program that he would then be awarded a full scholarship to do doctoral research or not be able to teach Vietnamese at Motorola's language school. For American consultants who are about to go to Vietnam, the job is like that. My love is no less than my friend. His daughter is the editor-in-chief of the panic top newspaper of his school. He pulled the semester that everything was going well. For him, when his younger brother's letter with the information of the leaders at home was arrested, when the headache was worse than ever, he had to go to extra Spanish lessons too if he was in trouble. He could go to his grandmother's house. If she wasn't there, he could go to France, because for him, only those two countries could help him contact the organization at home. In the midst of the boiling water, he also received a chilling postcard from his girlfriend. What kind of guy? Because on that postcard, there was a picture of the police officer. He was a superstitious person. He was no longer afraid when he saw it, because, in contrast, is an island in San Francisco Bay. They are all military bases, and this Catholic prison is like a sign to him to signal that if the clouds of Vietnam, when the new Con Tao prison is the word that he must come to stay. Now, the public high salary material life, no need to think about life spirit, is also comfortable while returning home. Sister does not know how much freedom will happen to Hong, but then he's still determined to leave the shirt to go the basis for his decision to return to Vietnam. That Delator, he explained that it was because of two reasons. The first reason was very important. That was because at that time he was too young. Today Hang did not know what fear was. And the second reason for that return was that they absolutely trusted the leaders above. He shared with Mr. Moy Wong that hearing the news that he was arrested, she still had no spirit. 10. That she would be safe for him to be the leader and commander of the other people. Surely she would not dare to return standing before the fragile boundary between life and death people, but it's still determined to return, starting from the trust of his leader. This is a proof for us to see how important the brand of the leader is and how much he trusts his leader is. Explained in technical terms, it was probably because everything that touched the 10 Gingers created was perfect. For his subordinates who returned to Vietnam at the end of 1959, Mr. An carefully arranged for his family to pick him up at the airport because he calculated that if the worst-case scenario was that he was arrested as soon as the plane landed, someone would write a story to inform the other side. Fortunately, everything went smoothly and nothing happened. He could return safely. But of course, things could not be that simple. He always wondered if someone had exposed him. Maybe he did not catch the heat in a crowded place, but caught the smut when he was home. How about when he returned home? Since the day he returned, he was always worried like a fish on a chopping board. His life since returning home was months of never knowing. When he returned home, he did not dare to go anywhere. He stayed in the house all day waiting to see if the police would come and arrest him. 201, the thing outside the desire that he always had told prepare himself to receive, that he did not dare to go anywhere from home, because he was afraid that if he went out alone and was caught in the room, no one would know. It would be a month. Elder sister was in the house to look through the window to see if anyone was following him. He observed for a long time but did not see anything. Then he planned to investigate who could help him threaten himself had been exposed or not. At this time, there was only Tran Kim Tuon because Mr. Tuon was the one who held the black book of the Viet Cong. He would give it by sending a letter of intent tasking Viet if his name was on the black book. There was no way the doctor on the upper level would give him work. But if the doctor on the upper level gave Viet, then it was over. He could breathe a sigh of relief. The doctor on the upper level at that time was described as a small person who always had the calm, strong face of a Confucian scholar under that face that seemed to be a silent husband. Then the doctor on the upper level was a notorious anti-communist. One, according to the plan, and was a pack Mr. Tran Kim Taeon's coup attempt. He studied pediatrics but never worked in the right university major. Please use this. His power was so great that everyone had to call him Doctor to know if they had been smuggled or not when the incident had to touch the powerful figure of the NGO Din Dem regime. This was also the person who helped him with the visa procedure 2 years ago, who was a person who only trusted a few loyal anti-communist friends in his organization. So when he saw him sitting down to apply for a job, Mr. Tuon was as happy as a martial artist. You would think that recruiting a person who had studied in the U.S. to work for the NGO Din Diem government was nothing better than someone who understood politics, economics, and society. He was also greedy and even spoke English. The first job that Dr. Tuon gave him was to work as a staff in the president's office. Each position allowed him to access all the military and congressional records, and most organizations in South Vietnam. Everything was quite good, but only for a short time. After that, he stayed and was transferred to another place. More true to his journalism special, Thais, the Viet Thanh Cha newspaper. This is the official mouthpiece of South Vietnam every day. She looks at the news provided by international news agencies for this newspaper. The task of this newspaper is to select politically appropriate articles to translate into Vietnamese. You must go up to serve the NGO Din Diem regime. The general director of this Viet Thanh Cha ship is Nguyen Thai, a close friend of the NGO Din Diem regime. Since the two of them were studying in the U.S., NGO Din Diem returned to the country. He used Nguyen Thai to build the South Antobi in charge of the press section. Because of this, Nguyen Khoi's blanket has many secrets of his own regime. Nguyen Thai once said that almost every day the president directly escaped to follow up on special information and then process it in this way or that for political reasons. Along with that, when Nguyen Thai also had another bridge, this does not believe that power, and it must be used to serve the case of the monopolists of information. For these reasons, on the Viet Thanh Cha platform is a place too ideal to bacteria to work. Immediately return to Saigon, contact many parties to find work, mister, and discovered many with the first two. That is the conflict between two factions in the small family funny that is NGO Din Nu and Ho. Din Need Tran Kim Tuhon is NGO Din Nu's son. Nguyen Thai General Director Bo Viet Thanh Cha is on NGO Din Cans. Side that's why the child doctor I see hate each other like cats and dogs. The doctor on the line then want to escape Nguyen Thai in time but hate each other, so it's very difficult to do because that's why the doctor on the line needs to go to Dong Bang to be his extended arm. Along with that, when this thaw asterisk